Too hot. Go in. Ah! What's a quick dessert I can whip up in a blender? Betty Crocker's answer? Blender double fudge cake. I'm Melinda and I'm cooking my way through Betty Crocker's 1971 recipe card library. Today we are making a blender double fudge cake, which is from section N, favorite family desserts, card number 2. I'm so excited to try this recipe. I've had my eye on this card for a while, but I'd never owned a blender before, so I couldn't make it. But finally, I've got my hands on a Vitamix blender and I'm excited to see how we're able to make a dessert with it. I think overall it's a pretty standard chocolate cake recipe, but I think the blender is just gonna make a really nice, light, fluffy, airy cake, more so than like a hand mixer could. We are doing something fun at the end with some chocolate and walnuts to decorate the top of the cake, but otherwise it's pretty simple, so let's give it a try. All right, let's blend up this cake. I've got all my ingredients ready to go into our blender. I will say there's one ingredient on here that I couldn't find, which was 3 envelopes, 1 ounce each of pre-melted unsweetened chocolate. I looked this up. There was this Nestle brand, like pre-melted chocolate in a pouch. I think it was called Choco Melt, but it was discontinued in 2014. So we don't have our pouch of unsweetened chocolate today, but I do have just, you know, your classic baker's chocolate, and I'm melting that over a double boiler over here on the side. So I'm gonna keep an eye on this, waiting for it to start to melt down. But I think that'll be the same thing. You know, it's unsweetened melted chocolate. What are we supposed to do? You know, it is what it is. All right, so the first step is actually to blend up the nuts, which will go on top at the end to decorate the cake. So I have a 1/4 cup of walnuts here, which doesn't seem like enough. Like, I don't know. We'll see if this is enough to cover the top of the cake, but I'm gonna go ahead and put those in and just blend that up real quick. See how she does in there. Woohoo! I want to be careful because I don't want like a paste. Like I can definitely accidentally make an almond paste here or a walnut paste. So let's see what we got going on now. Some of it is definitely like crumb mode and some is still kind of pieces. I think is what we want. How are you doing over here? I'm multitasking. Slowly but surely the chocolate melts. Let's get you back in your little cup. This is what I don't like about blenders, is all the junk gets kind of caught around the blender. Good enough. Our batter will have a little bit of walnut in it, but that's okay. Add a little bit of a crunch. All right, my chocolate is off the double boiler, melted, ready to go. So what we're gonna do is, in order listed, measure remaining ingredients except chocolate pieces into blender. Okay, so we have 1 egg going in. Something about the blender that I'm learning, you know, I'm a new blender owner, is that the order you put stuff in really matters. Like you have to have certain types of things near the blade or it won't mix well. So I'm assuming that's why we're putting like the liquid stuff at the bottom and then we'll put the dry stuff at the top. So, okay, egg is in. Now 3 tablespoons of shortening. Then a cup of milk. Then the chocolate. This is too heavy for her. This is too hot. Too hot. Go in. Ah! Oh, I knew I was gonna get chocolate all over my towel. So far it feels like I'm making chocolate milk. Vanilla. 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Then, I hope I'm supposed to be going down the left side of the card and then the right side of the card. I don't know. I think that's how I'm supposed to do it. Okay, so then the flour, 1 1/4 cups of flour. Then the sugar. That's 1 1/3 cups of sugar. And then I have baking powder, salt, and baking soda on top. Then we put the lid on. Blend 30 seconds on high speed, stopping blender occasionally to scrape sides with rubber spatula. Blending, we're blending, high speed. Go, go, go. the bottom so not mixing with the stuff on the top. That's why they give you this for a reason. Okay. A little smushy smush. Okay. I've heard that you don't want to over mix it or it'll become dense. But I also feel like it's called a fudge cake. And I'm curious as to like, maybe it's okay if it's dense because it's supposed to be fudgy. I'm just trying to scrape in where I see pockets of white. Okay, I'm definitely seeing that kind of iconic blender, like hurricane happening in the center. So I think that means that it's mixed. I realized this is an absolute travesty. I don't know if you know this. Chocolate cake is my favorite type of cake. It might even be my favorite type of dessert, period, chocolate cake. And I realized that I've never made a chocolate cake on this channel. I made one on Instagram once, but I've never made a full YouTube video of a chocolate cake, and it's honestly shocking that I'm not making more chocolate cakes around here. So that's something we're gonna have to fix in 2024. But I'm excited for this one, our first chocolate cake. All right, let's get into the pan. Okay, I have a greased and floured 8x8 baking pan. And I guess we're just gonna pour it in. We're gonna pour it in. That's what we're supposed to do. Pour it in. Okay. Oh, I hit a little pocket of chocolate. Okay, that's fine. The thing about the blender is that it has all these like little nooks and crannies that a normal mixing bowl wouldn't. So it's harder to get all the good stuff off. Overall, I find this to be a messier experience than just making a normal cake. But will it be worth it? Will it taste better than a normal cake? That's the question. It definitely has like a smoother, silkier texture to the batter. What a mess. Okay, so this is gonna go in a 350-degree oven for about 35 minutes until a wooden pick comes out clean. Messy! Let's get this in the oven and get cleaned up. Curious how a handheld massager motor and a bandleader with a special diet led to the life-changing appliance for home cooks everywhere? That's the story of the blender. In the early 1900s, 2 engineers and a marketing agent from Wisconsin invented a small motor that was capable of running off of electric power. They founded the Hamilton Beach Company and sold their first invention, an electric handheld massager. Meanwhile, in 1922, Stephen Poplawski invents the world's first blender, literally the first time that blades were attached to a motor for the purpose of blending food. He sold his device to drugstore soda fountain shops for malted milkshakes. Eventually, engineer Frederick Osius splits from his Hamilton Beach Company to focus on improving Stephen's blender design. He wanted to adapt his electric motor for at-home use. He was looking for an investor for this miracle mixer and found the popular orchestra leader of the time, Fred Waring. Fred needed a special diet due to stomach ulcers, and he was really excited by the prospect of blending vegetables to puree, so he invested in the product. Debuting in 1937, the new Waring blender sold for $29.75, which is about $600 today, and it became the new kitchen appliance craze. Cooking literature during this time claimed the blender would change a woman's life, allowing for new efficiencies in the kitchen. Suddenly you could cook a whole meal with one appliance. Owning a blender was also a sign of upper class and sophistication. You could make exotic delights like hollandaise sauce, salmon mousse, curries, even prepare dishes tableside for entertainment at dinner parties. The blender was an easy way to make kitchen drudgery into play and open up a woman's mind to creativity in the kitchen. So I think that using the blender for the cake we're making today is both pretty efficient and pretty creative. All right, so our cake is out of the oven. It went a little bit longer than 35 minutes. I think it was actually closer to 45 minutes. Something I realized when I saw how domed it was becoming is that it called for a 9x9 cake pan and I'm using an 8x8. So there was too much batter in there and it's not as flat as I think it should be based on the photo, but we have to work quickly because there's actually more to do, okay? The cake is really hot out of the oven and I'm gonna go ahead and right away sprinkle these chocolate chips on top of the cake. We're just gonna see what happens. okay? I know the dome isn't ideal, but we're just gonna see what comes of this, okay? And then you put this on top. I'm gonna smush it. I smushed it. And the heat of the cake is supposed to melt the chocolate. So just gonna wait a few minutes and see what's happening under there, and if that chocolate melts or not. All right, it's been a couple minutes. Let's see what's going on under here. Aha! Okay, that's not that bad. Okay, we're spreading. The chocolate is spreadable. My plan worked. The cake is less dome-like because I squished it. Now we're gonna take the nuts that we blended at the beginning of the process and sprinkle that on top. I like that there's kind of a mix of walnut crumbles and walnut dust. I think that will kind of add to the look, you know? It was all intentional. She says you're supposed to serve it warm, but I don't know, it like just came out of the oven. And usually you're supposed to let a cake cool before you cut it. So I don't know. All right, I'm gonna let this just cool for a little bit. I'll still serve it warm, but we're gonna let it cool just for a few minutes, and then we'll grab a slice and have a taste. I can't wait any longer. Let's cut a slice. It's still very hot, but I gotta do it. Okay, let's go. We're cutting a slice. How much of a slice do I need? How much does this serve? Doesn't say. But it looks like there's maybe 9 slices in the photo. The photo also doesn't look like a square. That's not helpful. Okay, I'm gonna go for a 1/9 of the cake. Come on out. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm so excited. Ooh, I'm so excited. Okay, let's do full bite, top to bottom. Okay. I'm getting the fudge. I'm getting fudge vibes. It is, like, compared to like a box of chocolate cake mix, a little bit denser. I think that's because of the way we use the blender. But, so you're getting that kind of fudgy feeling. It just has like a little bit more spring to it, or like sponge to it. It's definitely like bordering on the texture of like a coffee cake or something. Like it's a little bit drier. And it's interesting that we're not serving it with chocolate frosting, that we just put more chocolate melted on top of the cake, because for like a more dense cake, you might think that the fluffy frosting would be a good balance to that, but instead you just get like an extra burst of gooey chocolatey flavor. But I like it, it's nice. I like, you know, the walnuts, always a classic pairing with chocolate. So, pretty good. It's pretty good. I can't say if it was easier than making a regular cake, but I do think it was more fun to do something in the blender, my new blender. All right, blender double fudge cake. This was fun, right? Like, you know, it's not every day you make a cake in a blender, right? It's a little different, it's wacky, it's a little out there, but you know, it made a pretty good cake. It's, you know, it's not trying to be a layer cake. It's not trying to be Betty Crocker's cake mix. It's a different flavor profile, it's a different texture. It's not as sweet, which I kind of like. I mean, it's chocolatey, but if you want something that feels a little bit more like an afternoon snack, perhaps, instead of like, this is a heavy dessert, you're gonna feel sick and like sugar high after it. I think this is a good choice because even the way it's kind of served in the square pan with just the hint of chocolate and walnuts, it really feels like more like a snacking cake than like a full-blown decadent dessert. It's a lot more kind of palatable and subtle than your average like chocolate cake. So I think it's pretty fun, pretty interesting. I can't say it was any easier to do it in a blender. Blenders are kind of just messy to handle, but it made a good cake, so it's kind of fun. I don't know. I think I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 red spoons. Okay, back in the box. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out another fun retro dessert and watch German chocolate treats next. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and until next time, happy homemaking.